Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us, or you've got a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. Now, if you've watched any of our project videos, it's probably quite apparent that I'm go pro or go home when it comes to the dies. Well, we may change our minds today. We're going to look at the Angelus line of dies, and there's some colors in here I can't wait to try. And in fact, I haven't even broken these open. We're going to take a look together. But we've got a rose and a honey. That sounds beautiful. And a turquoise. Very cool. So let's step back here. I've got it set up. Let's put some dye on leather. Let's see what we think. Now, this is an alcohol carrier, so we're going to need some ventilation here. But what we're going to do is I'm going to dip dye every one of our colors. Basically, I'm going to pour the dye in my bin, dip that piece, clean the bin, go to the next color. But also through this, I'm going to dauber a couple of these colors. We probably know the outcome there, but let's try it nonetheless. We are going to start right here, red. This looks good. Now, when we open this, look at that. We even get a dauber. That's a nice touch. So let's fill our bin, and I'm going to run our first color through. Tap off some of that extra dye. There we go, and let's just lay this over here. We're going to let that dry as it is. Okay, so I'm going to clean out my bin. I'm going to go to my next color. Let's see what happens from there. Before we go to our last color, we're going to use a deglazer. Now, if you're not familiar with this, got a couple of jobs in our shop. First off, we can remove a top coat, re-dye, add a new top coat, so it'll bring old leather back to life. Secondly, the old school folks, they'll clean their leather with a deglazer long before they ever stamp, tool, or dye. I typically don't, but we're going to do one piece with a deglaze, one without. We're going to dip dye both, just like we've done everything else. Let's see if we can see a difference. So let's start with our deglazer. Now, this is one of the strongest items in our shop, so we need some great ventilation. We can always clean our bin with this, but again, very strong, but the bigger point, it's got some bad hang time on it. So let's use this sparingly, but again, with good ventilation. Let's just clean this piece of leather. And our last piece. So let's give all of this ample dry time. Now, the box says 24 hours, but I think it's drying pretty quick, so maybe 3 hours. So let's give this some good dry time. We'll come back, we'll look at our colors, add a top coat. Ample dry time. In fact, it worked out to where we had overnight to dry. I've got some colors in here I could not be happier with. Now, we're going to look at every one of these, but a couple, gorgeous. Couple, well, I'm not sure. I've got some confusion here. So again, I'm going to clean all of this up. Let's look at our colors. Then we'll add our top coat, see what that does. Let's look at each of our colors. And we'll go with some notes, but we won't run this out too far. Turquoise, beautiful color. Now it's dip dyed, so it's a little bit stiff. That's always been one of my complaints with the basic leather dyes. But all told, that's a good color and it feels good. That's our rose. Very clean and consistent. That's a beautiful, rich color. Now on our blues, the reason I said I'm a little confused, I love this electric blue in there. We've got some darker spots in there. So what I'm thinking is let's thin this just a little bit because that's my favorite color. But if I thin this a little bit, and our carrier is ethyl alcohol, we can find that at the pharmacy right next to the rubbing and denatured. But all told, that can be a very beautiful color. Maybe I just lighten it a little bit. Now, because I was confused on that, I dip dyed that, dauber dyed that. Look at the difference in that. But right here, I did not dauber the back. So this feels just like the leather did before I dyed it. But it's a good color. But I'd really like to obtain that electric blue. Green. That's a gorgeous color. Now we've got some debris here. That's probably me. I didn't change my gloves out. And right here, we dip dyed this. So again, probably me. I didn't leave it in the dye long enough when I started to pull it through. Red, a good color. Let's see, I bet that's our oxblood, and it is. Nice, rich color. When we jump over to our burgundy, it's a good, deep color. But again, right here, that just doesn't feel terribly stiff. It's got a good feel to it. Black, looks good, deep and rich. Now on our honey, I'm starting to see these drips, and I can't get rid of these. I tried a couple off camera, and I get that every time when I dip dye. So dauber may be the best way to go there, but it's a good color. Last, these two. We deglazed one and we didn't deglaze the other. There's a little bit of difference there, but again, notice our spots, our drips there. Not really happy with that. So very likely it might be best if we go with a dauber or maybe our sponge, and I love these. This is our dressing sponge. I tend to cut them down, make them go further, but that is a great sponge for applying dye. So again, let's reset here, add some top coat. Before we go to our top coat, there's one thing I want to point out, and this is kind of cool. I didn't even really see this to start with. But on our leather box, we've got some tabs back there that we can open up. The bottle sits right in that, reduces the chance of that bottle spilling. Now, as crafters, we're probably going to go to a larger bin, simply because it's easier to apply to a larger project. But right there, somebody at Angelus not only uses our dye, but knows the problems that we can have with this. So therefore, very creative, and you know what? They're thinking about us. Nice touch. Okay, so on our acrylic finisher, what we're going to do, the bottle tells us to apply with a brush, a sponge, or a rag. Now a brush, I'm a little hesitant to go that way simply because of streaking. But let's apply to our red, let this dry, we'll take a look at it, then we'll do everything else. There we go. Okay, the bottle also says don't give it excessive buffing. So that looks good. Let's leave it right there. Let's give that, it doesn't really tell us, but let's give that maybe half an hour. See what happens. Right around a half an hour, but all told, I don't think we need even that, but love that look. Super easy. We just buffed it on, walked away. So I like that aspect, but it's also got a low gloss. I love that look. It's good color. Very cool. Well, I'm excited now to add some top coats to these. So I'm going to top coat everything here. Let's see what comes out. We've got some good dry time here right off the bat. If I can fine tune that, that's going to be my favorite dye color of all time. Our black, rich, deep. Oh, and we've got a nice gloss on that, and it feels good too. Now our turquoise. Love this color. We're going to come back to this. Our rose. Nice, vibrant, rich color, and our red looks good. Now, for the most part, really happy with these colors. Again, on our greens, that's a beautiful color, but that's probably just me. Vibrant there. Now, the reason I wanted to set our turquoise aside, this is a rifle sling. Now, I've done this with a different dye. Wasn't up to speed on the Angelus yet, but what I'm thinking, see if you agree. We do a turquoise interior, and I'm thinking maybe more than a rifle sling. Purse flap, bag flap, all kinds of ways we can go. But we do a turquoise inside, and we surround that with black. That would be a striking color combination and a beautiful project. All told, we have got some gorgeous colors here. In fact, the blue, that may very well become my favorite dye color. And our top coat, easy to apply, dries fast, looks good. That's all I'm looking for. I hope this is good information for you. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.